Hi everyone, just a trigger warning that this next panel discussion is all about mental well-being and features some mentions of depression, suicide, alcoholism, grief and loss. Welcome friends, I'm Vicki, the lead CM here at Secret Mode, and each day we've got a little theme for Cozy Quest. So far we've already uncovered some hidden gems, shown off some upcoming games, and today we're getting even cozier and taking some time for some self-care. For me, my self-care involves snuggling up in a blanket, grabbing my Steam Deck, and playing a cozy game, and having a little bit of a hot chocolate. Today, I want to explore the positive effects of cozy games on mental well-being, from giving you the warm and fuzzies to dealing with some heavy topics such as grief and loss. And to help me out with this discussion, I've got three amazing guests who are much more qualified than me to talk about this subject. So, take it away!
Hi everyone, I'm Jarvs. I'm a community manager at Raw Fury, but I'm also an accessibility consultant as well. And I am a cozy game fan. Like, I talk about cozy games way more than I talk about any other type of game, so I'm really excited for this today.
I was really hoping Fox was going to jump in because I now have a man in my room currently emptying.
I'll go first.
That's fine, yeah. Melissa, you go.
Cool, I got it. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm the social media and community coordinator for Luminal Games. I had the absolute pleasure of being community manager for Pine Hearts, which is a very lovely cozy game that came out earlier this year. And I absolutely adore cozy games. I also enjoy getting snuggled up with a good warm beverage on my Switch, usually Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley.
Nice.
I can actually talk now. Hello. So the man has left. I am M, and my pronouns are they, them. I work for Safer Now World, and I have done for the last 4 weeks, and it's flown by, and it's very exciting. But I was previously community manager on a few different games, and the way that I kind of like to chill out after a day looking after communities and having people empty my radiators is I'm so sorry, pal. Usually Cult of the Lamb is a good one for me. I like the balance between going out and having a real roguelike experience and then being able to bring it down and chill out a little bit and tidy up people's poo, apparently.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's yours.
That's what you do. Yeah, that's me.
It's funny, you've kind of segued into something that you've kind of touched on things I was gonna ask you about. And we were talking about it before we started recording, how sort of those cozy games are different for everybody, and stuff like Cult of the Lamb may not be cozy for everybody, but again, like, that's one of my favourite cozy games too. Just that sort of dual aspect, like you said, of you run your cozy little cult and you feed them and you do a bit of farming and you clean up the poo.
Force them to get married.
Maybe you do a little bit of sacrifice. Just a little bit. But to me, that's cozy, and it comes down to things like the aesthetics and the soundtrack and the visual style and those little noises that they make. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, we've already touched on this. What are some of your favourite cozy games? Jobs, you haven't gone, so we'll come back to you.
Yeah, so this is why we were talking about it beforehand. So my like all-time go-to, I need to unwind and de-stress cozy game is Dome Keeper. And like, I know I work for the publisher, but I was obsessed with this game before I started working at Raw Fury because it's just like my zen space. It's one of those games where you can just like get into the flow of the game and kind of lose yourself completely in it. Like, it's not story-based. There's no like heavy thinking to do. It's just mine and then defend, mine and then defend, and like, it's a very easy loop. And although sometimes I go into panic mode because I forget that I need to defend because I've zenned out way too much in my mining section, I never get stressed. Like, it's one of those games where like I don't get annoyed if I die. I'm just like, okay, I'll just start another run. I don't care. It just chills me out. So that's like my go-to. I do have other faves. Like Stardew obviously is just, it just transcends everything. It's just one of those that will always be amazing. Similarly, again, Moonstone Island took over my life. Like, literally took over my life when we first got that. I think I'd put like 60 hours in before it was released. So that kind of whole farming sim, but with a bit more combat, I think is is for me, because combat doesn't have to be not cozy.
I agree.
It's some people like, if it's got combat in, it's not cozy. I don't agree with that. I can see why, but like for me, it's still part of it, and I enjoy it a lot. And then I really like games that are like community based. Some of the like Gartic Phone and things like that on Discord, where it's like just me and my pals drawing silly things and just having fun together and like making each other laugh. I find that really cozy, because usually we're in our pajamas, like sometimes we're on webcam, sometimes we're not, we're all having snacks at the same time, and yeah, I love that. That's my vibe.
This is the entire vibe for Self-Care Sunday. It's all about a bit of self-care, it's all about cozy games, but then we also are going to move on a little bit later in the day to it's better together kind of thing, whereas like it is that time to snuggle down, get your blanket, get your PJs, play some games with friends. Like that's one of my favorite things to do on a Sunday. So
yeah,
we're kind of touching on all of the things here, and I totally agree with Jarvs. Like just because it's got combat in it doesn't mean it's not cozy. And I was similar with Kingdom. Like the day cycle, you can just get lost and forget that a bad thing is going to happen at night. The bad things come at night. No, so I totally agree. And I could see that we were all nodding in agreement when you said that. So cool. Do you have a favourite self-care activity? Em, I'm going to come to you first. What's your favourite thing to do for self-care?
Ooh, I think it's seasonal, you know? I think it's seasonal. So like right now, my self-care activity tends to look like making sure I'm wearing a really cozy jumper. Like right now is one of the big ones. I like having a little bit of a hot mint and honey tea. Getting
nice.
cozy at my desk or on the sofa to play on the Switch for a little bit. It tends to involve either games or movies. And it tends to be, particularly for self-care, it tends not to be trying something new. It tends to be focusing in on something that I am already really comfortable with, that I know that I have a familiarity with. So whether that's like a movie that I've seen countless times or a game that I have countless hours in, just self-care for me does tend to focus in on that familiarity, not giving myself new information to process, because that's not what I need in that moment.
No.
I need safe, you know?
Totally get that. Melissa, how about you? What's your self-care look like?
Yeah, pretty similar. I definitely agree with it being seasonal, but right now, like, my favorite thing to do would be, like, I make myself a big mug of tea, always in a massive mug,
Nice.
as you have to.
Nice.
Getting cozied up on the sofa. It usually involves getting cuddled up under a blanket. I have to put my knees up because whenever I have a blanket, my cat likes to curl up under my knees in the blanket with me.
So cute.
So that's real good for the self-care. And then I've been really into being back in Animal Crossing recently. I've gotten back into my island, and it's been really nice to go back and like see all the time and care attention that I put into building that space and be able to like relive it again after a period of time of being away from it. I think that's one of my favorite things about cozy games, is like if it's the type of game where you can leave it for a bit and come back and re-immerse yourself into something that you've put time and energy into. I kind of get that with the like Stardew farms as well. Like when you come back and you see all your animals that you gave silly names to, and you're like, here's my little chook. That's my form of self-care right now.
Nice. Jarvs, do you have a self-care routine?
Yes, gaming is like all I do, apart from one other thing, which is cross stitch.
I'm well into cross stitch.
When you started, I was so happy.
I haven't shown you my latest projects. We need to like maybe we can just sit on a call sometime and just cross stitch together.
Yeah.
I would love that.
That's so cute.
I'm here for that. I love doing it. Basically, I can't draw, but I love pixel art. So I was like, what can I do that looks like pixel art? Cross stitch. That'll work. I can do that. So I just mainly cross stitch Dragon Ball Z and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters, and a bit obsessed with it. So I do that, or I get my Steam Deck, which I'm obsessed with, because as a disabled player, I can't always sit at my desk and play games. So having my PC games portable is like the best thing in the world. And now I take it to bed and I'm like,
Gotta
I'm in
say,
bed and I can play games.
getting a Steam Deck was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, same. I love it so much. It's like literally my favorite thing. So yeah, playing games in bed is like peak, and then making my husband bring me cups of tea on the regular whilst I'm playing games in bed. It's just needs to be done.
Can I tell you about something weird that I do for self-care? Like, when I feel really stressed, I just take myself up to a shop and go and sniff candles.
Nice. Fair. Sensory loveliness.
The sensory loveliness. I go to a safe space. It's TK Maxx. It's not that safe. But I know that I'm going to have a really nice time sniffing candles and maybe just to treat myself to one or two. So, yeah, we do that. But, yeah, generally it's grabbing a blanket and I get my Steam Deck and booting up like an old classic, one of my favourites. So.
It's always nice when a friend or your partner identifies when you need self-care as well. Like, it's funny you should mention candles, because when Josh came home, my partner came home last night, he came home bearing a Yankee candle.
Yes.
It was the
so
cherry and
cute.
vanilla, because he knew I'd had a bad day, and he just brought me a candle. I was like, that's exactly what I needed.
Oh,
That is so sweet.
I love that.
Adam knows when I'm stressed because he brings me food. That like food is the way to my heart. So he's like, here, have some sweeties.
Yay! That's so cute. All right, so we've kind of discussed what kind of makes a cozy game. It's different for everybody. It can be combat, it cannot be combat, but I think there are some defining features that define a cozy game. So let's have a little look at what we think defines a cozy game. Who wants to jump in?
Everyone's like, oh, being polite.
Me.
Yeah.
Pick me.
I think what you said earlier like nails it really though. Like, it's, for me, aesthetic is a massive part of whether a game is cozy, like massive part of it, because like there's a game coming out soon by the Blumhouse team that like looks like it's Stardew Valley but is actually a murder mystery, and there's like some horrible murder going on in it, but I would say that's cozy because of how it looks. It like full on looks pixel art, beautiful, bright colors, like it's wholesomely looking. There might be some murdering going on, but still, yeah, to me it looks cozy. But I think aesthetics is a huge part of it, and sound design for me has a big part of it as well. Like you mentioned earlier with like Cult of the Lamb, the little cute noises that the cultists make, like that just adds something to it, where you just like, oh, you guys are so adorable. I know I'm making you do awful things and we're sacrificing people and you're pooping all over my garden, but you're so cute and I love you.
Really cute. And talking about noises, like, again, to bring it back to Kingdom, my favourite cozy game, it's the like coin noises for me, or even you can watch little bunnies, you can literally watch the grass grow and watch the bunnies hopping around, and like then you can watch the archers shoot them, and even just the sound of the archers shooting, that to me is super cozy. Like it is very much like a visual and like sound sort of thing for me. What do you think, Em? What defines a cozy game?
It's an interesting one, because I think I'm on board with how Jarvs looks at it, looking for like an aesthetic or a sound or a style of music, a genre. But I tend to look for, there's like 3 categories of things that I want from a cozy game experience, and they tend to be control, escape, or reflection, like pacing. So control in the sense of, am I manipulating or am I being manipulated? Like, is the story giving me a sense of control, or am I having to survive? Like, if it's a survival game, not cozy for me at all. If there's a life or death situation, if there's a failure situation, it depends. Failure is a difficult one, because like there are games where you fail and there's no consequences, and that's okay. But if there's this feeling of, oh, I've done it wrong again, that doesn't feel cozy to me usually. So control, escape. I'm looking for cozy games that don't make me live in reality, because sometimes reality is difficult to deal with. So I want that sense of escapism from a cozy gaming experience. And then reflection and pacing. And I use those 2 words because I want a cozy game to give me the headspace to be able to process stuff in the background right? I'm playing a game, but there's still stuff going on in my brain. It's not always just switching off. It's just, it's giving yourself enough bandwidth to be able to process emotions, process feelings, process thoughts without having to be entirely present in those things. That can go on as like a background program while in the foreground you're playing a cozy game. So they're like the three things that I look for from that kind of cozy game.
Nice. Melissa,
That's really well laid out.
Yeah, that's great. Anything to add on that? I mean, how'd you follow that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been going through the games that I gravitate towards in my head while the other folks have been talking, just because like I'm trying to figure out what the tying theme for them all is. And I think for me it's not being pressured into like making any like world defining decisions. Like I've been really into playing Minami Lane recently. And like I love the sandbox of just setting up the street, and like the sound design and the aesthetic are gorgeous, but like I really enjoy that you have control over the street and you're given like these goals to aim for, and you can aim to do it in a certain amount of time or do these like extra little things, but you don't have to reach them to complete the goal. And once you finally get to that goal, you have the option to continue to keep playing with like the little world that you've created, and it doesn't immediately rush you on to like the next mission. And I really like being able to take the time to kind of like play how I want to play, and like not feel like I have to make massive impactful decisions or have a story like happen to me. I like kind of being in control with it too.
Amazing. So I think as you work on Pine Hearts, I think I want to bring the conversation a little bit towards that. Obviously, Pine Hearts, I mean, you've mentioned Minami Lane. Minami Lane is also in Cozy Quest, so is Pine Hearts. And I think that is let's look at that as an example of a cozy game and how it brings all of those things that we've just talked about. It kind of gets wrapped up into one package with Pine Hearts, I think. Not so much the combat element or the sacrificing element or the murder mystery element. Sorry, Jarvs.
Hey, I'm not the murder person, okay? I just happen to like murder games.
It's maybe not the place for murder today. But again, I think that when we look at Pine Hearts, we look at the setting and the sounds and the music all complements each other, and we've kind of gone for exploration and puzzles over combat, so it really is super duper cozy. And I've got in my notes in front of me the Steam description, so if you've not heard of Pine Hearts, I just want you to know that this is what the exact description of Pine Hearts is. It's a cozy little narrative adventure game set in the sleepy scenery of Pine Hearts Caravan Park. You explore the great outdoors as you uncover items, unlock new paths, and discover all the little secrets stuffed throughout the park. That in itself, just that little description, gives you a sense of how cozy this game is going to be. So it mentions the gameplay style, it mentions the setting, it mentions that there's an emphasis on puzzles and exploration, and I think it just really does set the tone for the whole game. So what I'd like to do is just explore that a little bit more with you. How do you think, what cozy elements do you think are within Pine Hearts that people are going to love, that people are going to connect with, that people are going to find the most cozy?
I think that the art style for sure, is the first thing that you notice when you're looking at it. It's nice and like colorful and bright and simple, but like each character has like so much personality that they've managed to like cram into like every design is really sweet, and each of the characters are actually like named after like people from the team that have worked on the game. So there's a Melissa character in there that for you to find. She talks about plugging your ears with marshmallows for when astronauts blast into space. It's very cool. But yeah, the music as well is something that we've had a lot of feedback on, and that was something that immediately I was drawn to. It's just the most gorgeous soundtrack, and like I'll sometimes have it on loop in the background of me working and stuff. We made a really nice little like lo-fi video to go along with it too, and it's gorgeous. It's really lovely, and the puzzles don't feel too they aren't too intense, so you can kind of take your time, figure things out. The game really rewards you for exploring and taking your time to interact with all the little things that you find in the caravan park, because if you see something and you're like, what's that, the likelihood is you can interact with it and like find something new from it, which is something I really like. Is really rewarding to be able to just kind of like go in and like tap around with lots of little things and see what they all do.
I love that. There's nothing worse than a game you're like, oh, look at that shiny thing over there, and you go and touch it and it does nothing. You're like, oh.
I know.
I really thought that was something.
We have like a little skipping stone animation, which is like, it feels like something so small, but like being able to see that and being like, I want to throw the rock, and then getting to actually do it, it feels like really fulfilling.
It's really rewarding. I love that. So it really rewards that exploration, and I think taking your time to enjoy the environment and interact with the environment as well. So really, really, really lovely game. If you've not played it, it's in Cozy Quest. So please do go and check out Pine Hearts. I'm wearing my Pine Hearts pins today. Thank you for these.
We love the representation.
Absolutely, and I've got a little postcard behind me here. Caravan Park.
Little Pine Hearts fan club over here.
Yeah, Pine Heart fan club over here.
Like, I talk about it at any opportunity I get, whenever, because it's very good for accessibility as well. Like, I genuinely think it is one of, if not the game of the year for me in terms of accessibility. It's incredible, and like, it's just, there's something magic about it. Everything that they thought about is so like inclusive and wholesome and wonderful, and it's, you play it and you just feel good. Like, it's just puts you in a good mood, makes you happy, like chills you out, and it comes back to the kind of what Em was saying earlier about survival games. Like, anything that's like pressure based makes it not cozy, and sometimes with some puzzle games I get like that because I get really frustrated if I can't work things out, and so sometimes puzzle games put my back up when it comes to cozy. But Pine Hearts gets it just right, where it's like, there is a little bit of challenge, but I never had to go and look up a guide. Like, at any point did I have to look up a guide to figure out how to do stuff. I could figure it all out on my own, and I felt good about figuring it out because it wasn't too easy. It had that really good level of like, I did that, and I feel really good about it afterwards. Like, I just love it. I love it so much, and I don't work there, so this is like non-biased. Like, go and get that game because it's wonderful.
It makes my heart so happy.
Really did choose the best panelists here.
Yeah,
We've all got so much love for each other. I love it. I'm going to kind of skip ahead on my notes here to accessibility, because Jarvs, you brought that up, and how important that is, and how prominent it is in Pine Hearts and with that sort of thing. So let's skip ahead a little bit and talk about accessibility in games. So Jarvs, why does accessibility matter in games, do you think?
Multiple reasons, but the main reason is that everybody deserves to play games, like everybody. And you know, right now there's a lot of discussion around accessibility and diversity and inclusion, and I think the discussion gets away from what matters the most, and that's like the ability for everybody to play games and also to feel seen in the media that they consume. And so there's like multiple parts to it, and I think Pine Hearts is a really good example, because not only is the game itself accessible, but the team thought about accessibility so wholly that every single time I saw them at an event, they made sure that they had accessible controllers and that wheelchairs could get to the stands really easily. And that's just not done as much as it should be in our industry. And you could tell that Luminal like genuinely care about making their games available for everybody. In a way that just stood out more than I think any other company has in a really long time, in my opinion. Because being able, my personal self, like the story for me, like I used to be a teacher, some people know that, some don't, and I lost my career to my disability. I got extra sick and couldn't stand up and run around and be the crazy drama teacher that I used to be. And I went for a really dark time when I lost that, and if it wasn't for games, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, games were my escape. They were my sort of finding a new community and a new group of friends through games. It gave me somewhere to be cathartic and feel the emotions that I was feeling. And it also gave me a place to be happy and enjoy things. And as a disabled person, I had no other way to do that at that point. I was completely bedbound. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And games gave me back that sense of of happiness and excitement for the world. And so like making games accessible to everybody is more than just like, I want to do something fun. It's mentally so important because it gives people a sense of community when they have no else. Like it gives you escapism and, like I said, catharsism, and that's so important. And communities like the disabled community, the neurodiverse community, that can be very isolated as a result of things outside of their control, gaming gives that back to them in a way that is very hard to meet in any other way. So it's just so important.
Thank you so much, Jarvs. Melissa, do you want to talk a little bit about the specific accessibility features within Pine Hearts? Obviously, Jarvs has picked it up. Are you okay to explore that with me?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So we the accessibility journey for Pine Hearts started really early on in the development of the game itself. So a number of the team took part in an accelerator program, and we managed to get a small amount of funding that helped us put a toolkit in place to develop the features that we kind of had the scope to put into the game at the time. So when you first boot up Pine Hearts, you immediately come into a selection screen, a menu for if you want to play with normal controls, or if you want a more simplified version of the controls, which will minimize button inputs and like long hold presses for people that might not have the dexterity. And then that follows up with a menu asking if you want the normal color mode or a color blocking mode, which is it highlights your main character, secondary, tertiary characters, and any interactables, and desaturates the rest of the background. And it's available in a few different color variations to account for any if you've got color blindness. And the idea behind having that at the very start is that when we were doing research into people that needed these accessibility settings, they were finding that they were having to go through long tutorials before they could even get to a menu.
Wow.
That would allow them to change anything that they might need that would give them access to play the game properly. So we wanted to make sure that that was something that was upfront, like the first thing that you would see going into the game. And then from there, you're able to access the settings menu at any time. You can change your font, you can change the scaling. We've got 2 different fonts you can select from, one that's slightly more handwriting style, but one that's designed to be more dyslexia friendly. You can change the size, any of like the letter spacings. It's amazing how much customization there is. There's like a whole menu full of things that you can kind of change and make the experience bespoke to how you want to play the game and what fits for your play style and what your abilities are.
Fantastic. That sounds incredible. It sounds like a lot of work, but like,
Yeah.
great work.
The team did an incredible job, like putting all of that together, and they built it in such a way that it's something that we want to use as like a base for pulling into future games that we work in. So we're currently working on our next title, and we're planning to use some of the toolkit and kind of implement it into what we're building there, just so that work's already done, and we can hopefully build upon that going forwards to include more accessibility options. Just because it's quite difficult as an indie company to like be able to invest the time and the resources into creating that software and creating the mechanics to make that work. But now that we've got that kind of baseline, we should be able to help build that up as time goes on, which we're really excited about.
That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
No worries.
So I really want to get into the meat of this panel discussion, which is the positive effects of cozy games on mental health. So what do we think? I'm going to come to you because you haven't spoken for a little while.
I've just been absorbing. I've been loving it.
Living the vibes.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the benefits then of playing cozy games, and why do you think people are drawn to cozy games?
I mean, I sort of touched on it earlier in the sense of a lot of these cozy games that exist out there give you a sense of control, and I think something that does often link with people's struggle with mental health is this lack of control. It's the lack of the ability to fix something going on in your life, but you can do this thing in this game that allows you to have some semblance of control. So that there is that angle. But I do also think I don't know whether this is my experience or a shared experience. I don't know, anyone would want to chip in on this if you've had this as well, but like games, having a game that gives you the space for reflection, for me, is key for the impact that cozy games can have on your mental health. Having the space for reflection is a big part of it. And I think if we boil it down, if we bring it back down to baseline, mental health isn't mental illness, right? It's the umbrella term for the good and the bad. It's this culmination of experiences, each experience impacting your wellness, your emotional wellness. And I think that a cozy game doesn't necessarily have to tackle head on this like a big topic like depression or a big topic like anxiety. It can be things that happen in our lives. It can be little things, right, that you might not think of this one experience and go, well, that's a mental health topic, but it can link to our experience with our own mental health. So yeah, I
think it's a good
now
way
I've sort of rolled off.
It's fine. It's just a great way to reduce stress, I think. And I think process emotions.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So when you're saying reflection, for me that always comes down to sort of a way to process emotions in a way. Like if I'm feeling really angry, there are games that will help you with sort of your exploring where that comes from, and things like loss and grief and depression. I mean, we've even talked about Stardew Valley. I mean, that has some very adult things in it. There's alcoholism in there, there's depression, there's suicidal thoughts, there's stuff like that in there. It does explore some very adult themes in some places. But yeah, I think it also just transports you somewhere different, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, when we're talking about accessibility as well, and I think Jarvs, you said it gives you a chance to do things in games that perhaps you couldn't do in real life, or like things that you probably couldn't achieve that in real life, but you can achieve it in a game, and it really does make you feel like you've done something. So yeah, I think it's just that you get to switch your brain off a little bit, maybe not entirely.
Well, no, exactly.
Switch off entirely either.
It's like what I said earlier about having the background stuff happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what give me another example of a time you set out for yourself that you actively go, right, I'm going to give myself this hour to be mindful, to be reflective. We don't really do that. We don't live in a society where we get the luxury of doing that. But there is a really good argument for, well, I've got a hobby, right? I need to have this hobby. I'm going to play games. Games is my hobby, but games is also a time for being mindful and being able to be reflective. So
yeah,
if you're just playing games that keep you away from that reflection, keep you away from actually processing stuff that's going on, then you're not making time to be mindful at all. Like, because we just don't do it anytime, anywhere else. So,
Shall I jump in there?
Yeah, go for it, Josh. You go for it.
I've like gone to therapy for years, and like I've had loads of therapists be like, you need to do mindfulness and you need to like do this and that, and I have always really struggled with it because I am the type of person that cannot turn my brain off.
Same.
And they're always like, yeah, it's fine if you get distracted by a thought, but just notice it and then go back. And I'm like, I can't go back, my brain does not switch off. And it wasn't until I met this one lady and she was like, well, what is your hobby? And I was like, well, gaming. She was like, well, do you find games like that calm you down in a way that nothing else does? And I was like, yeah. And she like exactly what you said. She was like, well, that's you being mindful, because you're aware of how you're feeling, you're sitting with it, but you're focusing on something else, and like you're letting that sort of be your mindfulness. And I'd never realized that that's what I was doing. But yeah, cozy games have been that for me for ever, like for as long as I can remember, and I've just never realized or put like that word to it. But Em's completely right. Like it completely is that way of being able to sit with something without it being overwhelming, or feeling pressured to do it, I think. And it's kind of a subconscious sort of processing, but it's so healthy. It's so healthy and really important to do. And we can do that whilst playing games. So yeah, it's brilliant.
So are we all in agreement then that cozy games can have a massive positive effect on your mental well-being?
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Definitely. If we want to look at exploring those things and exploring our emotions and dealing with tricky things, again, thinking about Stardew Valley, things like suicide, depression, alcoholism, things like that, some heavy subjects get brought up in games. I remember basically bawling my eyes out at the very start of Beacon Pines when he talks to his dead dad. That for me just really got me, and then took me a while to be able to play Spiritfarer as well. Like games that deal with grief really hit. I still haven't played Grease. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, don't play it till you're ready. But I think stuff like that could be really cathartic. Like it does help you to process it in a really healthy way. I literally don't know how I would process grief otherwise. So are there any other games that you guys can think of that process those difficult emotions or help you with that? I think, does Celeste do that, Em? Celeste?
I'm going to be saying this till the cows come home. Celeste is the game for exploring mental health topics, particularly with anxiety. And for me, I felt like Celeste was an eye-opening experience. I literally was on a panel the other day where I said it changed my brain chemistry. I've written about this. Celeste changed my brain chemistry. As an autistic person, as someone who went into this game having seen my partner play it, and I felt like, I'm not gonna be able to finish this. There's no way I will reach this summit. But because of how the game it's so immersive. You've got this character, you've got Madeline, and she has a very singular goal of getting to this summit, and because you get to know this character and you feel empathy with this character, the way they've developed this character is amazing. Because of that immersion, you're really rooting for this character to reach this summit, right? You believe in it, you need to get her to the top. And I was seeing a lot of myself in this character as well, of this self-deprecation and this idea that I'm not going to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it for this character, but I can't do it because it's a skill issue, right? I'm not good at games, and this is what it boiled down.
Me either. This is why I haven't played Celeste, because I've watched other people play it and they've really struggled, and I'm like, I would love to play this. This is my kind of game, but this looks hard. But and it is hard. It is a challenging game. Is there different difficulty settings there? Like, what's the least difficulty you can play it on?
There is an accessibility setting that gives you more time to figure out the direction you're going.
I need that.
But it was that mentality right there. I was like, I'm not good at games, that I had to get out of to be able to get to that summit. Right? It wasn't a healthy mindset to be in. It was like, it's a skill issue. That wasn't a healthy mindset for me to be in. And it kind of, the story plot, without giving anything away, because I recommend anyone playing Celeste, without giving the game away, it did basically give me this realization moment, the penny dropped, where I was like, why am I working against myself? Why am I working against my neurodivergence? Why am I working against these things that make me me? Why am I trying to fit into a different mold, right? And when I started working with my neurodivergence, which is what I learned from this game, everything just got easier. Like it was game changing. It was brain chemistry changing. It was amazing.
I need to bump that up to the top of my to play list, because
it's so good.
Also being neurodivergent, I am struggling most days with that, and I do feel like I'm fighting against myself a lot. So I definitely need to get that.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend. It's a healing.
It is, yeah.
It's a healing game.
It's a healing game.
Yes.
Can we think of any other games that perhaps explore difficult emotions? Jarvs, you go for it.
I'm thinking of a recent one. So grief, coming back to what you said earlier, grief is one of those things that I am very, very bad at processing. And I will think I'm okay, and then it will hit me, and I would just be like a mess.
Same.
And recently I played Tales of Kanzara Zao, and I have to say, that hit me in a way I didn't expect it to. It's about the story of someone who's lost their father, and the journey that he goes on to process that grief, and it's so beautifully written, and the whole game and the journey that you go on through the game, and even like the actions that you take in the gameplay style, progress that feeling, and at the end it kind of gives you that sense of I'm gonna be okay, like I can do this, and I'm gonna be okay. And I just think it's so beautiful. And Abu Bakr Salim, who started Surgeon Studios, who made it, he lost his dad, and that's why he made the story. It's his own story, and you can really feel that in the writing. And he's the voice actor of Zhao, and it's so beautiful that it just got me. And normally, if I come across grief, sometimes I'll have to stop what I'm doing because it upsets me so much. But I didn't find that with this. I found that like this guy gets it. Like he knows how I feel, and he knows how cathartic it is to see other people go through it, and so you're not alone. And I just think that game's, if you haven't played it, I can't recommend it enough. It's so beautiful and so wholesome and gorgeous. It's stunning as well. Just the art style was amazing. So if you like aesthetics, like, you'll like this one. But yeah, that really moved me in a way that I was totally floored by.
What was that called again, Jarvs? Sorry.
Tales of Kanzara Zhao.
Nice.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It is an indie, but it's under the EA Indies section. So although they've got a big publisher, Surgeon Studios themselves are an indie studio. So.
Lovely. Amazing.
Could I jump in with one more recommendation?
Yeah, absolutely. You go for it.
Because I feel like I've talked, and I feel like we've talked a lot about individual experiences of games and mental health, but they don't have to be solo experiences.
No.
And I would love to recommend another one if you want to play a game with somebody else and have a shared like experience of like mental health pivotal turning points.
Absolutely.
For me.
Yeah.
It Takes Two.
Yes.
Oh,
what
It
a
Takes
great game.
Two.
What a great
Right?
game. I mean, there's only one thing I didn't like in that game.
Go on. Was it the
book.
anglerfish?
No, the book.
Oh.
The book I just thought I just thought he was really annoying. And then it's one of those things that it's like the parents clearly don't want to be together anymore. Just let them be. Let them do their own thing. Stop trying to stop trying to like push them together. Let them just do their own thing. Let them figure it out themselves.
I feel that. I see that. I was so sure you were gonna say the anglerfish because that thing terrified me.
There is one thing that made me super sad, and there's one reason that I wouldn't play it again, and it was the elephant.
Mm-hmm. The elephant, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
That's the one thing. It forced me to do something that I really didn't want to do. It was against my nature to do it. Like I didn't want to hurt the elephant. I didn't want it to have any pain. I didn't want to do anything bad to it. And that game forced you to do something bad. And that's something I didn't. That's another thing that I really didn't like about that game.
I respect that.
But otherwise, brilliant experience. One of the best gaming experiences that I've had with my partner, for sure. But carry on, I interrupted you, sorry.
No, I'm fully on board with that. Like again, I played it with my partner, and it was wild that we could quite clearly see reflections of ourselves and our own flaws in the characters we ended up playing. Like the not giving something at 100% and therefore giving up on it. If we can't 100% something, just going like, oh, we can't do it then. That was a big one. And also like talking down to ourselves, making us think that we're not good at something. Like those themes were very present, and being able to be these other characters in this make-believe situation where we were working together and each of us got so invested in helping the other person get over this like barrier of like self-acceptance, this barrier of, oh, I can't do this thing, helping the other character do that thing that they loved. I loved that so much. And we were sat on the sofa sobbing at the end of that game. I can feel it now just thinking about it. It was so wholesome.
It was a great game. I thought the level design was fantastic, and that the fact that every level just seemed to be more and more beautiful. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
The Christmas one with the
winter
snow
one.
with the ice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I got to that and I was like, I want to live here.
Yes,
I want to
same.
live here. Yeah, it was
Mhm.
brilliant. And actually, like, usually I don't like it when you get familiar with a mechanic and you know how that works, and then the next level it's a different mechanic. Usually I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, this is too tricky. But it did it in such a way that actually it wasn't too hard to pick up. But
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Definitely.
Astrobot is doing the same sort of thing. You have a new mechanic every time, that, you know, a new feature that will help you solve a puzzle. And at one point I was thinking, this is too much now, but again, quite accessible, not too bad.
Yeah.
Fab, thanks for sharing that. Which kind of brings me on to my next thing. Melissa, I'll give you a chance to jump in though. You've been a little bit quiet there, so if you do have anything to add, now's your chance before we move on to the next bit.
Yeah, for sure. I completely like echo what you guys were saying. I've been trying to think of like if I could bring anything new, and I think like I wouldn't say it's necessarily specifically about grief, but like the first time that I played through Undertale, which is maybe a weird one to bring up, but like once you get to that like end kind of fight, it's been a while since I've played it, but like I just remember being like hit with all of the emotions at once of like dealing with what was going on in the story and like not feeling like I would be able to like continue, just because of like needing to like you're faced with a lot of obstacles. I don't know if anyone's like not played it at this point. It's been out for a while.
I haven't played it.
I know that the fan base is kind of a vibe.
Vibe.
It's a vibe. But I recommend, if you don't know much about the story and you're going into it without anything, I think it's an incredible experience of like the way you as a player like treat the world and how the world is reflected in how you're treating it. And when you get to that end kind of point, the realization of like the impact that you've had on the world and how you can change these people at the end, it hit me in a way like I've never experienced that in a game before, and it completely changed my opinion of what games could be and like what you could achieve with a game, and like the way that you could interact with it and the way that it could change you. And like it stuck with me since, like the feeling just sticks with me. But talking about more recent games, and not to bring it back to Pine Hearts.
Go ahead, I'll let you off.
Thanks.
Go on then.
But there is a subtone of grief that runs through Pine Hearts that you can kind of pick up through the memories that go through the story as you're progressing through, and it kind of develops more and more as you progress further into the game. And similarly to what Jarvs was saying earlier, it's a story of our creative director Rob. It's his story of him losing his dad, and is kind of like a love letter to him. And like the overarching message is that the journeys that we continue on, we carry those that we've lost with us, and the people that we love are continuing on those journeys with us, and we remember them in the skills that we have, and as we continue to grow, we bring them with us. And it got to points when we were getting in the development process where we were getting those later cutscenes, and I had to stop watching them in the office because every time I saw one, it had me in tears. And like getting to the point where you play through the whole thing and you can just like see the whole story open up, and again reaching that summit, like there seems to be a theme going, but reaching the summit and getting that final cutscene, it's a story that's quite, it's obviously specific to Rob and his experience, but it transcends just being that experience. It's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. Grief is such a universal experience, and being able to like put yourself in those shoes and see and feel that story, it was incredibly cathartic getting to the end after like watching it all come to development
Yeah, I have to really be careful with any games about grief. I lost my dad last year and I'm still not over it, so anything that deals with grief is tricky, but like we've said, it can be quite a cathartic thing and it's quite a universal thing to go through. So yeah, I'm really grateful for you all for being here today, so thank you.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, genuine.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're not finished quite yet. We've touched on playing together, so things like It Takes Two. And again, Jarvs, you said that you sort of found yourself a sort of a community of gamers, and that kind of helped you out a lot. So I think we do tend to think about games as kind of like a thing that we do by ourselves. It's just for us. But I think having a community of gamers is also important, and you know, being able to connect with other people, being able to have those shared experiences with people. So can we discuss kind of the positive effects of that and all the different ways that community can show up in cozy games? Who wants to go?
I'll dive in. I don't mind.
Go for it, Jarvs.
So I'm going to shout out my little PlayStation Access community that aren't so little anymore. But when I first sort of decided that I wanted to work in games, I volunteered to help PlayStation Access sort of grow their community outside of YouTube. And it was completely voluntary, but it was the best thing I've ever done, because I got a group of friends out of doing that came to my wedding, that are like lifelong friends. They came from like Texas and like all over the world to my little Devon wedding, and their support and their friendship and their understanding of gaming and how much it means to me and stuff is genuinely like my lifeline. Like, they're incredible. And we have like a set of cozy games that we play together that you don't normally think of as cozy, because like you would think of your Stardew, okay, hey, that has got multiplayer, but you think of playing it on your own, or you think of, you know, all of the games that we've mentioned previously. But for us, we had like Gang Beasts, we had Duck Game, and like any of those sorts of like zany shenanigan based, like messing with your friends, having fun type games, not shooters, not like intense zombie killing or anything like that, but just like fun mayhem together. That was our cozy evenings. Like, we'd all jump on the PlayStation, we'd all jump on voice chat, whether it was on Discord or on PlayStation or whatever, and just those were like how to de-stress, how to have fun, how to be together. And it's so important to have that, because I think a lot of us in like who like cozy games, I tend to find are not the same people that would like to jump into COD for like 10 hours and play multiplayer like that, right? And so we don't tend to have the same experience with multiplayer that another sort of section of gamers do. And so I, up until I met this lot, had only ever really played on my own. Like, I'd spent most of my time being a single player girl and not ever experiencing that community of like playing with people. And it wasn't until I found these games like Gang Beast and Stick Bold and all of these like wild zany games is the only way I can explain them. Like, but they gave me a way to access that without the pressure of being good at something, or without like needing to have like this inbuilt skill set of the game. It was just, you could pick up, play it, have fun, laugh at each other, laugh with each other. And it is important, because mentally sometimes you just need that sense of community and that sense of fun and joy, and gaming can do that in a way that nothing else can, because you can bring together people from all over the world, and you can have friendships with people that you never would have met any other way. I know all of us met through work, but we all met through working in games, and we all met online before we met in person. And like, I consider you guys some of my absolute best friends, and I think that in itself is come from gaming and our love of gaming. We might not play games together, but we talk about them together, and we talk about all the cozy games that we love and the communities that we love that we work with, and that passion for building the communities is shared between us. And it's so important. And I think that anyone who's part of a gaming community will be able to tell you how special that community is. And they're all special in different ways, but they're all so magic and so supportive. And I think one thing that isn't talked about anywhere near enough is how supportive the game dev community is itself. Like, this community is like, I'm gonna cry because I'm like M knows, like, recently I had to go through a fundraiser that I didn't really want to do. I was really embarrassed about it. I needed to get a new wheelchair. I was really embarrassed to do it, and
But you did it. You know what? You've done it.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I did it, but it was because of M and my other friends in my game dev community that happened. And in under 24 hours, I had a wheelchair funded, and that was pretty much solely the game dev community coming together for one of their own. And this community is like that in so many ways. Like, people lift each other up with all of the layoffs going off. You see people like recommending each other and sharing CVs and recommending jobs to each other. And like, this community has been through a lot in the last 2 years, and the industry might be on fire a little bit, but the people who work within it are some of the best, most wholesome, beautiful people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. And I think that is partly why our communities about games are so special, is because the people who are making them are just beautiful beings. Just beautiful beings.
I love the word beans. I always call it like, you're the best bean.
Yeah. I'd love to take that further as well, because Jarvs has hit the nail on the head there. In terms of support, I think you're absolutely right, Jarvs, in that within the game dev community, there is this generosity of spirit and generosity of kindness, and I love that so much. But the thing that really gets me about cozy games and the communities that form around them from the player's side is that those people are also quite often so generous with their patience and their understanding. Like, I've until, obviously now I'm working at Safe in Our World, but until fairly recently, I was part of a team that had to make the difficult decision to delay a game coming out. And a big part of that was that there's so many obstacles in the way and so much uncertainty in the industry, but on top of that, it was having such a knock-on impact on the dev team. They were all really struggling. We did not want to put them through crunch, and so the decision was made to just not put them through crunch and find another way of surviving without compromising the well-being of that team. And I know that there are some communities out there in games that need a lot of work, that need a lot of love, that need a lot of patience to get to a healthier place, but that would not have well received that information. But in the cozy gaming space, there was nothing but positivity for that decision being made. There was nothing but understanding of this fact that, they're human beings making a game. You need to look after your human beings making the games. And I just love that we get that from that community. It makes me feel very happy to have been able to be a community manager serving a community like that, because I'm like, wow, you absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, deserve all of my time and effort. Like, I would get up in the morning knowing that the people that I were talking to online got it. They got the passion behind what we do as game devs. They got why we wanted to make games, and they were more invested in the game they eventually got being solid, being a reflection of what the vision was, what we wanted to create for them, than it landing on any specific date that had been planned before things fell apart.
You get out what you put in, I think, and you put in a heck of a lot. Like, I was in that community, I saw you working your butt off, and you really get out what you put in. Like, you put so much of yourself into that community, and you brought the exact right vibe for that community. And I think it's what they say, like, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? It's such a cliche thing to say, but you put out the right vibes and you got the right people back. People who were invested. I felt like that. Yeah, absolutely. People who were invested in the game, people who were invested in bringing the right vibe, people who were invested in looking after each other and respecting you. So, of course, you wanted to show up and do your best work.
And in the same way as what Jarv said about people that are sticking with you now, like that you've met through the industry, that you consider some of your best friends, I'm not lying when I tell you that some of the people I met through Southfield's community are still in contact with me every day, even though I'm not doing that job anymore. But like, I met so many awesome people that have taken the time out to teach me how to stream. Like, this year I started streaming, had no idea what I was doing, but the fact that I'd met these people and they were like, oh, okay, so Em wants to try this, they spent time on Discord calls showing me how to set up bots, and sending me resources and tips and advice. Like, it's unfallible.
And
They're amazing.
you're absolutely smashing it. Your streams, you would never guess
Oh.
that you're like a new streamer. Like,
Thank you.
You would never guess.
That's very sweet.
That's so true. That is genuinely true. One of my favourite things to do is watch flop VODs when I'm working. Just whack the one in the background while I'm working, and you just make me happy.
That is wholesome. Thanks.
I feel like we've gone really off my notes, but I feel like we've really covered a lot of topics. Like I had all of these notes planned, I had this entire thing planned, but I think I wanted to keep it natural and organic, and it's gone that way. So I think we are probably maybe just on the verge of finishing. We are need to wrap up. So what I would say is, I think gaming is great. Gaming is awesome as a resource for self-care and like contributing to your mental well-being. But I think offline activities as well, you know, spending time with your friends in real life, you know, going for a walk, reading a book if that's your kind of thing, cooking, baking, you know, people say go and touch grass every now and again. It's true, you need to get out in nature sometimes. You need to go and take a breath of fresh air and maybe actually climb a mountain for real, like Em does every now and again for charity. So yeah, I think spending time with real people in real life and doing offline things as well is a great way to contribute to your mental health. But yeah, thank you all for joining me today. I'm gonna do a few closing things. And I think it's really important to take care of your mental health however you can. Being part of a community is always a great way. Online communities, as we've explored, are a fantastic resource for that. But if you do need any further extra help, we haven't even really talked about Safe in Our World and what they can offer. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of time now to talk about Safe in Our World and what resources they can offer for mental health.
Yeah, thanks, pal. Well, there's quite a few different ways that Safe in Our World support the industry and support gamers directly. For my game dev friends, they've got some. We. I keep forgetting that I'm part of that team. I get to say we now. We've got some fantastic resources in terms of being able to identify. Like, I think something that people struggle with a lot is emotional literacy of like, what am I actually feeling? What is actually going on? The website has got so many different like personal stories or resources, articles that sort of take you through the different struggles that you might be experiencing. We also do like mental health first aid training for teams. We've got the Level Up partnerships that, you know, if your studio's not a part of, why not? Come on, join us.
We're already there. We're
benefits
already there.
everybody.
You don't need to convince us. We're there.
Yeah, and then like for actually for gamers, you know, we're always looking out for. Every year we've got the class of ambassadors that we've just had closed, so there's always next October for that. We've got the sidekick journals, which are like gamification of mindfulness, which is really cool. We're always at events, we're always here to talk. The Discord is always open. It's a good time. We just there you go. And it's so good, honestly. They pulled this. I say they pulled this together before I joined the team, and it's like one of my favorite things that I've got from Safe in Our World. So,
I don't have one.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a spare one lying around,
I'll see about maybe sending you one. I'll see about maybe sending you one.
I'd love that. Thank you for joining me for Cozy Quest. Enjoy the rest of your days. And,
Thanks for having us.
Oh,
It's really nice.
So welcome. I would love to
Top
do
notch.
this anytime.
It's been great fun.
Yeah, maybe next year, Cozy Quest again. Next year, we can all do this
Heck yeah.
again.
So down.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.
There are plenty of other resources out there, so if you do need some help and you'd prefer to use the text helpline, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're in the UK, and you can access that 24/7. Also in the UK available, if you prefer to talk to someone on the phone, you can always call Samaritans on 116 123. And if you're in the US, again, there's a free text helpline. It's the crisis text helpline. You can text HOME to 741 741. remember to take care of yourself and stay safe, everybody.